The Medal of Honor is the United States of America's highest military honor, awarded for personal acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. The medal is awarded by the President of the United States in the name of the U.S. Congress to U.S. military personnel only. There are 3 versions of the medal, one for the Army, one for the Navy, and one for the Air Force. Personnel of the Marine Corps and Coast Guard receive the Navy version. The Medal of Honor was created as a Navy version in 1861 named the Medal of Valor, and an Army version of the medal named the Medal of Honor was established in 1862 to give recognition to men who distinguished themselves conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity in combat with an enemy of the United States. Because the medal is presented in the name of Congress, it is often referred to as the Congressional Medal of Honor. However, the official name is the Medal of Honor, which began with the U.S. Army's version. Within the United States Code, the medal is referred to as the Medal of Honor, and less frequently as Congressional Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is usually presented by the President in a formal ceremony at the White House, intended to represent the gratitude of the American people, with posthumous presentations made to the primary next of kin. According to the Medal of Honor Historical Society of the United States, there have been 3,513 medals of honor awarded to the nation's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen since the decoration's creation, with just less than half of them awarded for actions during the 4 years of the American Civil War. In 1990, Congress designated March 25 annually as National Medal of Honor Day. Due to its prestige and status, the Medal of Honor is afforded special protection under U.S. law against any unauthorized adornment, sale, or manufacture, which includes any associated ribbon or badge. History. 1780. The Fidelity Medallion was a small medal worn on a chain around the neck, similar to a religious medal, that was awarded only to 3 militiamen from New York State, for the capture of John Andre, a British officer and spy connected directly to General Benedict Arnold during the American Revolutionary War. The capture saved the fort of West Point from the British Army. 1782. Badge of Military Merit. The first formal system for rewarding acts of individual gallantry by American soldiers was established by George Washington when he issued a field order on August 7, 1782, for a badge of military merit to recognize those members of the Continental Army who performed any singular meritorious action. This decoration is America's first combat decoration and was preceded only by the Fidelity Medallion, the Congressional Medal for Henry Lee awarded in September 1779 in recognition of his attack on the British at Paulus Hook. The Congressional Medal for General Horatio Gates awarded in November 1777 in recognition of his victory over the British at Saratoga, and the Congressional Medal for George Washington awarded in March 1776. Although the Badge of Military Merit fell into disuse after the American Revolutionary War, the concept of a military award for individual gallantry by members of the U.S. Armed Forces had been established. 1847. Certificate of Merit. After the outbreak of the Mexican-American War, a Certificate of Merit was established by Act of Congress on March 3, 1847, to any private soldier who had distinguished himself by gallantry performed in the presence of the enemy. 539 certificates were approved for this period. The certificate was discontinued and reintroduced in 1876, effective from June 22, 1874 to February 10, 1892, when it was awarded for extraordinary gallantry by private soldiers in the presence of the enemy. From February 11, 1892 through July 9, 1918, it could be awarded to members of the Army for distinguished service in combat or non-combat. From January 11, 1905 through July 9, 1918, the certificate was granted medal status as the Certificate of Merit Medal. This medal was later replaced by the Army Distinguished Service Medal, which was established on January 2, 1918. Those Army members who held the Distinguished Service Medal in place of the Certificate of Merit could apply for the Army Distinguished Service Cross, effective March 5, 1934. Medal of Valor in 1861. There were no military awards or medals at the beginning of the Civil War except for the Certificate of Merit, which was awarded for the Mexican-American War. In the fall of 1861, a proposal for a battlefield decoration for valor was submitted to Winfield Scott, the General-in-Chief of the Army, by Lt. Colonel Edward D. Townsend, an assistant adjutant at the War Department and Scott's Chief of Staff. Scott, however, was strictly against medals being awarded, which was the European tradition. After Scott retired in October 1861, the Secretary of the Navy, Gideon Welles, adopted the idea of a decoration to recognize and honor distinguished naval service. On December 9, U.S. Senator James W. Grimes, chairman on the Committee on Naval Affairs, proposed Public Resolution No. 82, to promote the efficiency of the Navy, which included a provision for a Navy Medal of Valor, which was signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln on December 21, 1861, to be bestowed upon such petty officers, seamen, landsmen, and marines as shall most distinguish themselves by their gallantry and other seaman-like qualities during the present war. Secretary Welles directed the Philadelphia Mint to design the new military decoration. On May 15, 1862, the United States Navy Department ordered 175 medals with the words "Personal Valor" on the back from the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. Medal of Honor. Senator Henry Wilson, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Military Affairs, introduced a resolution on February 15, 1862 for an Army Medal of Honor. The resolution was approved by Congress and signed into law on July 12, 1862. This measure provided for awarding a Medal of Honor to such non-commissioned officers and privates as shall most distinguish themselves by their gallantry in action and other soldier-like qualities during the present insurrection. During the war, Townsend would have some medals delivered to some recipients with a letter requesting acknowledgement of the Medal of Honor. The letter, written and signed by Townsend on behalf of the Secretary of War, stated that the resolution was to provide for the presentation of medals of honor to the enlisted men of the Army and volunteer forces who have distinguished or may distinguish themselves in battle during the present rebellion. By mid-November, the War Department contracted with Philadelphia silversmith William Wilson and Son, who had been responsible for the Navy design, to prepare 2,000 Army medals to be cast at the Mint. The Army version had the Congress to written on the back of the medal. Both versions were made of copper and coated with bronze, which gave them a reddish tint. 1863. Congress made the Medal of Honor a permanent decoration. On March 3, Medals of Honor were authorized for officers of the Army. The Secretary of War first presented the Medal of Honor to 6 Union Army volunteers on March 25, 1863 in his office. 1890. On April 23, the Medal of Honor Legion is established in Washington, D.C. 1896. The ribbon of the Army version Medal of Honor was redesigned with all stripes being vertical. 1904. The planchet of the Army version of the Medal of Honor was redesigned by General George Lewis Gillespie. 1915. On March 3, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard officers became eligible for the Medal of Honor. 1963. A separate Coast Guard medal was authorized in 1963, but not yet designed or awarded. 1965. A separate design for a version of the medal for the U.S. Air Force was created in 1956, authorized in 1960, and officially adopted on April 14, 1965. Previously, members of the U.S. Army Air Corps, U.S. Army Air Forces, and the U.S. Air Force received the Army version of the medal. Appearance. There are 3 versions of the Medal of Honor, one for each of the military departments of the Department of Defense, Army, Navy, and Air Force. Members of the Marine Corps and Coast Guard are eligible to receive the Navy version. Each is constructed differently and the components are made from gilding metals and red brass alloys with some gold plating, enamel, and bronze pieces. The United States Congress considered a bill in 2004 which would require the Medal of Honor to be made with 90% gold, the same composition as the lesser-known Congressional Gold Medal, but the measure was dropped. Army Medal of Honor. The Army version is described by the Institute of Heraldry as a gold 5-pointed star, each point tipped with trefoils, 1.5 inches (3.8 centimeters) wide, surrounded by a green laurel wreath and suspended from a gold bar inscribed valor, surmounted by an eagle. In the center of the star, Minerva's head surrounded by the words United States of America. On each ray of the star is a green oak leaf. On the reverse is a bar engraved the congressor with a space for engraving the name of the recipient. The pendant and suspension bar are made of gilding metal, with the arch jump rings, and suspension ring made of red brass. The finish on the pendant and suspension bar is hard enameled, gold-plated, and rose gold-plated, with polished highlights. Navy, Marine, and Coast Guard Medal of Honor. The Navy version is described as a 5-pointed bronze star, tipped with trefoils containing a crown of laurel and oak. In the center is Minerva, personifying the United States, standing with left hand resting on fasces and right hand holding a shield blazoned with the shield from the coat of arms of the United States. She repulses discord, represented by snakes. The medal is suspended from the flukes of an anchor. It is made of solid red brass, oxidized and buffed. Air Force Medal of Honor. The Air Force version is described as, within a wreath of green laurel, a gold 5-pointed star, 1 point down, tipped with trefoils and each point containing a crown of laurel and oak on a green background. Centered on the star, an annulet of 34 stars is a representation of the head of the Statue of Liberty. The star is suspended from a bar inscribed with the word valor above, an adaptation of the thunderbolt from the Air Force coat of arms. The pendant is made of gilding metal. The connecting bar, hinge, and pin are made of bronze. The finish on the pendant and suspension bar is hard enameled, gold-plated, and rose gold-plated, with buffed relief. Neck ribbon, service ribbon, lapel button, and V device. Since 1944, the Medal of Honor has been attached to a light blue-colored moire silk neck ribbon that is 1 3/16 in width and 21 3/4 in length. The center of the ribbon displays 13 white stars in the form of 3 chevron. Both the top and middle chevrons are made up of 5 stars, with the bottom chevron made of 3 stars. The Medal of Honor is one of only 2 United States military awards suspended from a neck ribbon. The other, the Commander's Degree of the Legion of Merit, and is usually awarded to individuals serving foreign governments. On May 2, 1896, Congress authorized a ribbon to be worn with the medal and a rosette or not to be worn in lieu of the medal. The service ribbon is light blue with 5 white stars in the form of an M. It is placed first in the top position in the order of precedence and is worn for situations other than full-dress military uniform. The lapel button is a 1/2 inch, 6-sided light blue bow knot rosette with 13 white stars and may be worn on appropriate civilian clothing on the left lapel. In 2011, Department of Defense instructions were amended to read, for each succeeding act that would otherwise justify award of the Medal of Honor, the individual receiving the subsequent award is authorized to wear an additional Medal of Honor ribbon and/or a V device on the Medal of Honor. Suspension ribbon. This was discontinued in July 2014 and changed to read, a separate MOH is presented to an individual for each succeeding act that justified award. The V device is a 1/4 inch high bronze miniature letter V with serifs. The Medal of Honor was the only decoration authorized the use of the V device to designate subsequent awards in such fashion. 19 individuals, all now deceased, were double Medal of Honor recipients. Historical versions. The Medal of Honor has evolved in appearance over time. The upside-down star design of the Navy version's pendant, adopted in early 1862, has not changed since its inception. The Army 1862 version followed and was identical to the Navy version, except an eagle perched atop cannons was used instead of an anchor to connect the pendant to the suspension ribbon. In 1896, the Army version changed the ribbon's design and colors due to misuse and imitation by non-military organizations. In 1904, the Army Gillespie version introduced a smaller redesigned star, and the ribbon was changed to the light blue pattern with white stars seen today. In 1913, the Navy version adopted the same ribbon pattern. After World War I, the Navy decided to separate the Medal of Honor into two versions, one for combat and one for non-combat. The original upside-down star was designated as the non-combat version, and a new pattern of the medal pendant, in cross form, was designed by the Tiffany Company in 1919. It was to be presented to a sailor or marine who, in action involving actual conflict with the enemy, distinguishes himself conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, despite the actual conflict. Guidelines. The Tiffany Cross was awarded to Navy CDR Richard D. Byrd and Floyd Bennett for Arctic exploration. The Tiffany Cross itself was not popular. In 1942, the Navy returned to using only the original 1862 inverted 5-point star design, and ceased issuing the award for non-combat action. In 1944, the suspension ribbons for both the Army and Navy version were replaced with the now familiar neck ribbon. When the Air Force version was designed in 1956, it incorporated similar elements and design from the Army version. It used a larger star with the Statue of Liberty image in place of Minerva on the medal, and changed the connecting device from an eagle to an heraldic thunderbolt flanked with wings as found on the service seal. 1862-95 Army version. 1896-1903 Army version. 1904-44 Army version. Post-1944 Army version. 1862-1912 Navy version. 1913-42 Navy version. 1919-42 Navy Tiffany Cross version. Post-1942 Navy version. Flag on October 23, 2002, Pub. L. 107-248 was enacted, modifying 36 U.S.C. 903, authorizing a Medal of Honor flag to be presented to recipients of the decoration. The flag was based on a concept by retired Army Special Forces First Sergeant Bill Kendall of Jefferson, Iowa, who designed a flag to honor Medal of Honor recipient Captain Darrell Lindsay, a B-26 pilot from Jefferson who was killed in World War II. Kendall's design of a light blue field emblazoned with 13 white 5-pointed stars was nearly identical to that of Sarah Leclerc's of the Institute of Heraldry. Leclerc's design, ultimately accepted as the official flag, does not include the words Medal of Honor and is fringed in gold, the color of the field, and the 13 white stars, arranged in the form of a 3-bar chevron, consisting of 2 chevrons of 5 stars and 1 chevron of 3 stars, emulate the suspension ribbon of the Medal of Honor. The flag has no set proportions. The first Medal of Honor recipient to receive the official Medal of Honor flag was Sergeant First Class Paul R. Smith. The Medal of Honor with the flag was presented by President George W. Bush to his family during a ceremony at the White House on April 4, 2005. A special Medal of Honor flag presentation ceremony was held for over 60 living Medal of Honor recipients on board the US Constitution on September 30, 2006.